Hello folks, Jack here from Peach Guitars, and what I'm doing today is a first impressions video. I tend to like doing these first impressions rather than a really fully in-depth video when it comes to new pedals, because there's a bunch of other great videos out there on the internet already that covers that kind of thing. What I want to put across to you on this channel is just what we think of these things when we take them out of the box. And this is the first time I've managed to get plugged in to the 3 new pedals from Mesa Boogie for this year. I think they actually came out last year, or at least announced last year, but this is the first chance we've had to plug these things in. So I've grabbed a Gibson Les Paul, I've grabbed a Mesa Boogie Fillmore 25 amp head, and I thought now would be a good opportunity to show you these 3 pedals, but I don't really know that much about them really, so I'm just going to kind of walk through my initial thoughts as we go. What you heard at the start was the Gold Mine, which is the pedal on the furthest left. I've kind of arranged these fairly strategically, so I've gone from highest gain on the left through to lowest gain on the right, which is obviously in reverse signal flow order. So I'm actually plugged into this one first, and then so on. So if I'm going to stack anything throughout the course of this video, I'm actually going to stack the lowest gain pedals into the highest gain pedals, which is how most people tend to do it. So the Gold Mine, I think, sounds awesome. I think it sounds fantastic, and that's kind of, I think, the signature Boogie pedal of this range. What they've tried to do here is cover 3 different gain kind of reference points, including, I think, in the Gold Mine, what they've done is they've tried to bottle some of their legacy amp tones into a pedal format, which they have done before, but it's nice to just see it updated. So it's definitely the highest gain of the bunch. I will play around with the gain though. That was about between 12 and 1 o'clock. Plenty of gain for me, for like a chunky high gain tone or for a lead sound. Really easy to play, really fluid under the fingers, really squishy. There is an internal dip switch which activates a tight kind of low end cut control. So if you're more into heavy riffing, you can probably do that quite easily with this pedal, but I'm not going to mess with any of that. This is just what you get out of the box in the stock mode. There's also 3-band EQ. This is the only pedal that's got 3-band EQ. Haven't touched that yet, pretty much all at 12 o'clock. Sounds really nice. Sounds kind of like a nice fat but flat kind of a sound, if you know what I'm saying. It's not too hyped in any particular way. It's certainly not scooped in the mid-range either. So for high gain pedals, I think that's kind of the trick, is to just afford the user as much flexibility as possible without having too much of a signature sound in the pedal that you can't get rid of, that you can't dial out. So I like what they've done with that. The other 2 I'm going to come on to in a moment. You're going to hear those as well, but let's explore a bit more about the Gold Mine. I want to start in reverse order by starting with the highest gain, and then we'll work towards the Cleo, which is the lowest gain of the 3. Now just a quick note on the aesthetics of these pedals as well. I think these are some of the best looking pedals I've seen in a while. It's really nice when builders just decide to take things back to basics. And you know, we guitar players often revere Boss and MXR pedals as being some of the best just functional pedals of all time, and they also look great. They've got that signature look to them. I like that Boogie is kind of tapping into that a little bit here just by going with some block colors, They've moved away from the more kind of amplifier style aesthetic that some of their pedals had in the past. And they've just gone for pure fun looking pedals. I really like that. And it also kind of gives you a little bit more of a visual impression of what they're going to do as well. The gold to me looks like it's the kind of grandiose, all singing, all dancing, high gain thing. The purple is cool and vintage, kind of plexi-ish as the name implies. And then the blue is a bit softer, a bit more of a classic overdrive thing. That's just my impression anyway. So let's delve into the Gold Mine, as I said. So clean tone, for reference, is clean mode on the Fillmore 25. Sounds like this. Bit of reverb on the amp there as well, and I wanted to get a clean that's not super skinny like a Fender Deluxe reverb. It's a little bit fatter, and I think pedals always respond better to a clean tone like that. So just bear that in mind when you hear how these pedals sound. Right, let's go back into the Gold Mine. Well, that's the Gold Mine. As you can tell, there's actually a lot more in it than I perhaps gave it credit for at the start. I kind of termed it like a high gain pedal, and it definitely does that, but by turning the gain right down, it does one of my favorite guitar sounds ever, which is that kind of early to mid 80s boogie tone. Like when a lot of players were using the Mark I and the Mark II kind of amps, the little combos, you can kind of tell that it's kind of a sound that's like being constrained a little bit, because it's got this, you know, obviously it's got loads of roaring gain in there and you're turning it down. It's totally different to when you have a low gain amp that you crank up. It's a very different experience. You've still got this really nice compression that you would associate with maybe tweed Fenders is another example of that sound, where you've got all this great harmonically rich signal and you're just kind of turning it down to a slightly lower gain point. It's a very different approach, like I say, than boosting a low gain amp. I really like that. The pedal does it great. It's just running at standard 9 volts as well. I don't think there's any voltage uplifting inside, but it sounds and feels like it responds like gain in an amplifier would do. So I really like that, and I think that in conjunction with that tight control on the inside, you can get a lot of different low to mid to high gain tones out of the Gold Mine. So it may seem that that pedal does it all, but there's 2 other pedals here to explore as well, so let's do that. The Dynaplex in the middle. This is a big challenge that they've set themselves here, because I think there's so many pedal companies that put that term plex, which I don't know if that's why they've done it, but I'm going to assume it's a reference to a kind of Marshall plexi, 60s, 70s, mid-gain, classic rock tone kind of thing. So many pedals tried to claim to do it. Very few actually kind of deliver on that claim. So let's see what Mesa Boogie have done with that term. Let's see what it sounds like. Clean tone once again for reference. Well, that works for me. That does the plexi thing, I think. Like I say, I don't know if that is exactly what they've designed it around, but it's got the squish. So like a lot of these plexi type pedals, they don't have that natural kind of sag that amplifiers like this have. It's very hard to bottle it, I would imagine, in a pedal format as opposed to, you know, a roaring 100-watt amplifier. But when you're going for those in-between kind of mid-gain sounds, it's one of the most important fundamental principles of the sound. And so many things just don't have it. I think this does it really nicely. You don't really have the traditional EQ complement like the Gold Mine does. You've got a presence and you've got a tone control. And just in setting up for this video, I found personally that I like to increase the tone because I think that has the widest effect on the tone. It kind of really takes you from a very muffled sound down low to a nice bright open zingy tone up high, and then you can just tame, if those highs are getting a bit shrill, tame that with the presence control. But let's explore that. I'll play around with the gain as well so you can hear the full range that this pedal's got too. Well, hopefully you'll hear that on the recording, how much impact this tone control has. When it's way down low, it's like you lose gain as well. So it kind of works like the treble controls on old Marshall style amps would do, where they actually add and subtract gain from the circuit. That's really interesting. But like I said, I like this combination of having the tone higher and the presence lower. Let's play with the gain control though, so you can see the full range. So once again, taking the gain pretty much all the way down and then pretty much all the way up. There's a lot of range in this thing. And internally, once again, there's another little dip switch control that you can play with that affects the EQ. So in this default mode, it's actually quite mid-pushed. That can sometimes be a problem with Marshall-style pedals, I find, is that they either give you way too much mid that you can't get rid of, or they give you too little that you can't put back in. This addresses that by having the dip switch, which takes some of that mid-range away. So if you want a more kind of flat response, you can do that internally, but I just really like that out-of-the-box sound. It cleans up really nicely as well. It has a lot of different transients going on, so it's not just a full-bore high-gain pedal. It's actually got a dynamic sensibility that most other Marshall-style pedals, or at least Plexi-style pedals, just don't really do. So that's very impressive, I think. Last of the bunch is not going for a particular amp-style tone. This is, from what I understand, kind of more of a low-gain, overdrive kind of boost hybrid as well. So we're going to play around with this. I've just set this up as I typically would do any other overdrive pedal, just from default. So tone about midway, gain about 9 o'clock, because you can kind of tell it's just opening the taps at that point, and the level I've just set it to unity. So let's see what the Cleo sounds like, and then we'll start playing with the controls. Well, I didn't expect that much range out of this thing. I had this kind of build as the low gain option, but you can tell when you pin it all the way, there's a lot of gain to be had in here, but it's definitely a different type of gain to the other two. It's smoother, it's more of a traditional overdrive feel, and it has a bit more of that kind of, I want to say like a clon kind of transient response. It's a little bit faster than like a Tube Screamer style overdrive would be, but it's got that mid presence. So I bet this stacks really nicely with the others. So let's try the Gold Mine. I'm going to stack the Cleo into the Gold Mine, and I'll do the same with the Plexi pedal just so you can hear how well this works as a boost. So here's the Gold Mine. Well, that sounds great. That works really nice as a boost because it adds the mid-range back in and more sustain, obviously, for a lead sound. Let me just do the same thing quickly with the Dynaplex as well. I'll do the same thing, just add this as a boost. So I guess pretty much you could cover almost any gain type tone that you need with any one of these pedals, but having them together works really nicely as well, especially having the Cleo as a boost. And I love the fact that this is kind of like, you know, with no pedals on, you've got channel 1, you kind of got channel 1 with a boost here, channel 2 and channel 3, each with a respective boost as well. So they all work really nicely together. I think 3 very well designed pedals that have a lot to offer. So if you've got a spot on your pedal board that you want to put a new gain pedal into, and you're not quite sure of which direction to go, whether you want to go with a more traditional overdrive pedal or more traditional distortion, I could kind of safely recommend any one of these pedals to fill that spot, and you wouldn't be disappointed regardless of what style you play. Though obviously there are merits to the lower gain pedal for some things and merits to the higher gain pedal for other things. So hopefully you'll be able to make your own decision. And this first impressions has been somewhat useful to you, as it has to me. So if you want to find out any more information about these 3 Mesa Boogie pedals, click the link in the description below. You can also find out information about Mesa Boogie's other products, like this Fillmore 25 head, which sounds great, and this Gibson Les Paul, which will be linked below as well. So that's the first impressions video. Head to the website for more information. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like down below if you've enjoyed it, and that you're subscribed to the channel. And let me know in the comments what you think of these 3 new pedals from Boogie. I think they're very, very cool. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Take care, folks, and I'll see you very soon.